Hello, welcome back to the Live Rally Game Podcast. My name is Stephen Stewart. I'm here with the second episode of Behind the Game. In the series, I talk to hosts and game creators and discuss, the origins of their series, but also the evolution of their games over time and the challenges they face and what they've learned along the way. And today with me, I have Kirk Carlson. Kirk is known for being a player of many games. He's one of the reigning champs of Survivor VC. He is the winner of the first iteration of Adventure Kokopelli. He's played Survivor Durant, more games that I can acknowledge. Kirk, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, Steven. It's really good to see you. Regarding Survivor, I've only played 4 series. I've played 8 times, but
Yeah, I was like,
I've played four
series first
series,
game.
and now I can happily say I've won 3 of those series. The only series I did not win was Survivor Durant, which just finished its last episodes recently. So I'm still at a high, dude.
So Survivor Durant, Kokopelli, assume Survivor
Pirate
BC, and then
and
Pirate Booty Camp /
Pirate
Pirate
Booty
Scholar
Camp.
City.
Yes.
Okay. Well, do you predict that you'll come and take a victory lap in another game in the near
Oh,
future?
hell no, never. There's no way that'll ever happen. I mean, part of me is like I'm destined. I have to retire now. But I got to tell you, just even like it's been 1 season since I played, but I'm still like, man, it'd be fun to play again.
And you played some non-Survivor games as well, right? You played
Yes.
Jamie's Who Is the Mole the Live game, so you've dipped your toes in non-Survivor stuff.
I love the mole. I can't win the mole. I'm terrible at the game, but it's so fun. I love it.
Well, a little sidebar before you dig into your series Adventure Kokopelli. I want to talk a little bit about a topic that we've spoke to in the past. We did a podcast several years ago called LRG 101, and you, me, and Hannah discussed what is a live reality game. And I know, given that there is some current discussion over it, is there anything you want to speak to on this?
Yeah, Stephen, I think that it comes up every couple years. What is a live game? Does this thing constitute a live reality game? And I'll tell you, when Dustin and I were in the car with Shiley and Jalen and Evan Kirksey, and we came up with this term. This term was literally based on the experience we had just had at Pirate Booty Camp Season 1. And again, I played many games prior to this, but it came down to we were in the moment. We were kind of sequestered from our real life. We were playing this event that changed the normal rules of society, and we were in this moment, like, together. It was live, and it was really happening. And we played around with a lot of different terms because a lot of these players came from the online reality games community. And we see that still to this day all the time. Like, we get a ton of org players. And we kept playing with, what is this? Is this a virtual reality game? What is this? And then I think it was Jalen. I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, it's a live reality. It's not online. And it just kind of stuck. And that was when we created this group. And I'll tell you, this definition has really evolved for me over time. There was a time where I didn't think College Survivor really constituted a live reality game. And I remember getting into the comments and being a keyboard warrior about it. And after watching many seasons, I've come to learn that these games are apples and oranges. And while they're not, there's many things that make them different. There's a few things that make them unique. And part of that is that you're there in real life, in real time, playing the game. And I think when it comes up to the community that's talking about these amazing experiences, and I've played them too, of these online hybrid Zoom different events and games, they're super fun. But it's different. And I just encourage people who have not played live games, that have played those, to step out, play a live game, and you'll experience what everybody else has experienced, and you'll understand why it's a different beast.
Yeah, I always feel like coming out of a live game, it's like having a very intense summer camp experience where you go, you live with a bunch of strangers, you do all these crazy things that no one else
Mm.
understands, and you walk out like, I've made friends, I've made memories.
Oh yeah, we've seen people get married, have kids, literally like Craig, like literally my final two,
Mhm.
like yeah.
So I think this helps us dovetail into the first. I assume Adventure Kokopelli Season 1 was the first game you ever played? Yeah.
Yes, if you don't count the year before.
Okay.
So there was so I guess I'll just get into it.
Yeah.
Kokopelli came out of every year at the end of the college semester. So Kokopelli is actually closely, I think, related. It's like a cousin of College Survivor. So we didn't play it during the semester. We would always go on a camping event on Memorial Weekend after the college semester was over. People were starting to get back home. We missed our friends, so we'd get back together. And this group of people from college, we also all watched Survivor. So after people graduated from Survivor, we started to, like, as people do, you drift off.
Hmm.
And there was so after years of there being like 10, 20 people at this event, there was just 5 of us. And we're sitting by the fire, and I know that we're all kind of like missing the past and all of our friends that were there. And what happened is it turned into the first challenge of like what would be Kokopelli, and it was a fire building challenge because we needed to build a fire to make marshmallows for the night. And we just said, okay, whoever fire gets the highest fastest wins immunity, and then you vote somebody out. And I was the person who was voted out first, if I can even remember correctly. I think they voted me out because I didn't build my fire fast enough, which is a tradition for me in games. I can't build fire. But anyways, we had a wonderful little weekend like we always did. And after that weekend, we realized how fun. And that was 5 rounds of Survivor. There were 5 of us there. Okay, so that's playing Final Five, 4, 3, and then it's the end. We had so much fun doing that. We were like, and this is what, 2006 or something.
Hmm.
So we're like, let's see if everybody will come back next year to do this because it'll be something unique. It won't just be camping. And lo and behold, people did. And we had a cast of like, I don't know, it's still small, like 14, 16 players or
Hmm.
so. And that was our first season. And it was at our buddy Trevor's cabin on Shelley Lake. And it was called Survivor Shelley Lake. Oh, no, excuse me. My history is wrong. It's Survivor Selkirk Lake. Because we didn't even have the name Kokopelli at the
Hmm.
time. That had to do later with an article we read where Survivor was having issues with copyright.
Hmm.
And so we ended up switching the name because of this article we read. So yeah, that's the whole beginning of Kokopelli. It was basically like a group of college friends that would play, that would just go out and camp, and then it turned into the first 3 years essentially of Kokopelli was people coming back to this camping trip after they had graduated college.
Talk to me a little about the name Adventure Kokopelli. What's the significance of it?
Mm. So Susie Davidson and I, after we read this article, season 2, where we heard about different events that were getting like issues and copyright strikes or whatever it's called. So we were like, okay, let's not do the logo, let's not do Survivor. So we wanted to switch it up. Adventure came to Susie really quick. And actually, I can give all cred to Susie. I didn't come up with either of these names. So Adventure was hers, and that was just like perfect. Right when she said it, we were like, of course, to everybody, this event is an adventure of some kind. So that was lockstep. We knew it. But when it came to Kokopelli, we played around with a lot of different things, and what it really came down to is the game to us represented friendship, revelry, but also being kind of like cunning and a trickster. And so we researched a lot of that. We played with different ideas. Like one was the idea of just doing like animals every season, where it'd be like Adventure Fox, and it would just
Hmm.
be thematic that way. But when we looked at the lore of Kokopelli, we were just like, this is it. And it's kind of weird because you don't see that in Michigan. I mean, you see Kokopelli everywhere, right? It's pop art at this point, but it's obviously not part of our Native American tribes around here, but it's something we adopted for the game because it was the perfect representation of the spirit of what we were trying to create. And it's funny because this past summer we didn't do an event, but we had kind of a reunion. And I'll tell you, the Trickster is so ready for 2024. I literally saw the Trickster. The revelry was there. The ideas are there. And I'm so excited for to see what happens at next year's event.
So that very first year, that first game in 2007, you ended up being the winner of that season. What was that like?
It was awesome. I was a huge Survivor fan, and
Mm-hmm.
but not even because that's 2007, and I would say so Survivor started in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
I'd watched maybe half of the seasons,
Mm-hmm.
so I wasn't even a super fan at that point, but I'd watched enough, and it was a fun experience. I got to go to the end with somebody from the opposing tribe, and we kind of played a game where we bounced from tribe to tribe. We played alliances. It was a very sneaky game, a game that I'm not known for these days, or at least not the same way. And it was a super fun experience. The only thing that was maybe not satisfying is the final two was a challenge instead of a vote. And the jury was involved with the challenge, but it wasn't that the players chose me as the winner. So the thing that I left walking away from that was, one, I never found an idol, and two, I didn't really like the ending. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the full experience for whoever won the next season. And so one of the things about Kokopelli, and I don't know if this is one of the questions you're coming up with, but it happened in that game with only 5 players the year before, where we just said, oh, if you win, you have to plan it. And it was just very low key. It was not a lot of pressure, but Susie won that little mini that we played. So she hosted that season. And so when I got to the end, it kind of was like, okay, now I have a lot of work to do. Like, I mean, I had never done anything like this before. And like every great host you see at every live game, like the Nickies, the Chestons, the Gyras, the Amoses, they just that was me at that time. I just went 150% into the experience and was like, let's look at this game in a new way. And I think that was the season that started the twists of Kokopelli, where it wasn't like Survivor.
So you mentioned since your first season was a final challenge or final vote, are you saying we need to asterisk the 4 series, 3 wins? Is that what
Yes.
you're saying here?
Yes. You can totally asterisk the three wins. Absolutely.
Hey, still, you make it to the end. Like that's a huge victory in and of
Yeah.
itself. So
Yeah.
that speaks for itself. And besides, you made, I think, a final tribal twice in Kokopelli history, right? Because you came 3rd place one season.
Yeah, but the 3rd place season, the final tribal was 2.
Okay, so you're the
Yeah.
fallen angel. There we go.
I was just
Yeah. So getting back to you've just won the game. You are now in charge of the game. So this reminds me a lot of the MIT Puzzle Hunt. Have you heard of this?
Yes,
Yes.
I love that.
So the MIT Puzzle Hunt is this giant puzzle scavenger hunt style game every year, and it's infamous in that the game is run by the last year's winners, and which is impressive that they had such continuity with just new people winning each year. So we know from MIT's Puzzle Hunt, it is possible to have continuity through winners coming back winning games, and we'll talk more about that. But let's talk about your first season of being a showrunner, of designing the game, running the game, putting all the things in the pieces. What was that like?
I mean, it was so much work. I didn't have a Dustin in my life. Susie wanted to play, who was the host the year before. her partner Trevor, he wanted to play again because he had not won. So he was also very close in the original creation of events. So it was like, dude, you're on your own. And so these two, okay, so let's get into this. These two love camping. So they find this kick-ass location and they're like, Kirk, you should have your survivor not at Trevor's cabin, which, by the way, would be convenient. There's running water. There's fucking food. There's everything you need. There's a convenience store down the road. But they're like, oh, we went up into the Manistee National Forest, found this beautiful lake. And there, if you go across the lake, there's an island that you can camp on. And I was like, no shit. You've got to be kidding me. So we go there. And it is gorgeous, also super rustic. Like I'm just looking around like LRG players today would not be able to handle it. Let's just put it that way. They would look at it and like, no, real foot players could handle it. Let's put it
Excellent.
that way. Yes. Let's like if we want to create the hierarchy, I'll name it right now. Real foot players could have hung and been fine. But it was rough. Like no bathrooms. There are like there's nothing. There's literally nothing up there. It's just beautiful scenery. And I go out there and I'm like, yeah, this is great. So my dad lends me his canoe. To get the challenges to the site, I had to canoe everything over this pretty big far distance. And like thinking back on it now, I'm just like, what the hell was I thinking? And some of these challenges didn't even fit in the canoe. Like they're sitting across it and I'm going across the water by myself. So like at any point, if this canoe tips, I'm gone. The challenges are gone. Survivor is gone. Adventure is gone. It's done and over with. But there was this excitement and also just terror at times. Like, is this going to work? Are people even going to show up? Steven, this is before fucking like GPS and like I mean, you have GPS, but we had to like write the instructions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is how you get to this random location where you will not have cell phone service. And you're lucky if you had a cell phone. Not everybody did it this time, is the reality. So we were planning these things via email. We're finding people on message boards that want to be a part of this.
Yeah. So what percent of the cast were this friend group? What percent of the cast are like you're finding, you're recruiting, you're pulling in?
Oh, that's a great question. So pretty much for the first 3 years, this is just a friend group of Susie and Trevor and also some of my friends, but mostly their circle of friends.
Mm-hmm.
And after Susie, they have a family after year 3. They have a kid and she gets different employment. So at that point, that's when I started recruiting. And during the middle years of the first 3, like during year 2 and 3, I discovered what orgs were as we were trying to like look at like, do other people do these things? And so I played a couple orgs. And so I invited a couple people out. And I think if I remember correctly, I only think one person came and it was Rebecca Chatfield, who was the creator of Pirate Survival Expedition. And I think it was just her, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but then Rebecca would come back to help out, and because she had a lot of experience in org, she recruited a ton of people the next year, and that's where we start to get. That's Shiley's first game. I mean, Shiley is a freaking staple. Like everybody knows Shiley. Jake Valentine, bless his heart. He's passed on since then, but he was at this event. He's played lots of games. Robbie Ramone. And then also another staple, Travis Rindler, also came from that recruitment. So he's actually played Kokopelli, I think, 4 times. So he's played it. He's tied for playing it the most.
So that second year, do you have anyone helping you, any volunteers, or are you running the entire game yourself?
Oh, it's all me, and I quit. So this is a fun story. So everybody's getting drunk. Okay. So like, this is like college survivor. Like people brought beer and booze
Mhm.
and stuff. And like, I'm like, I just want to do the second challenge. I had reward challenges planned. Everybody's just being a hot mess. Nobody's paying attention. Nobody wants to listen to the Jeff. And I still am so sad. I had this little necklace that my friend had given me, and it was a little ocarina, or it was shaped like an ocarina. It had a little Kokopelli symbol on it. And I went down to the lakeside with a couple of the players, and I was like, I just feel like nobody wants to do this. Like I felt like it was a critical moment where Kokopelli could have never happened again after the first day of the second season. And I tore off the necklace and I threw it into the lake. And I kind of to this day look at it as an offering to the survivor gods, because that next morning everybody woke up ready to play. They were super engaged to participate, and we had a fucking amazing season, and they killed it. But it really was almost, things fall apart, Steven. Like it was not good for a second there. So I pretty much saved it. No, I did not have any help. These were all, everybody else there were players.
I mean, thankfully, in these games, you can kind of like once people get voted out, you can kind of draft the limited players to be that kind of help. Is that something you were using?
Not yes, that happens these days. Not that season. This in 2007, people were like, "Oh, I'm gonna go on the kayak and go fishing," and then they would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go up to the national forest and go play frisbee golf." Nobody was interested in hanging out unless they were drinking, Steven. Like, and towards the end of the game, yes, they were all just like very drunk, sitting by the fire, watching the game go on. But like right after they were voted out, no, season 2, that was me.
So, what would you say like the biggest challenges you dealt with that season were?
It was just the physical location, like
Mhm.
getting stuff to that place. It was gorgeous. Like the pictures still to this day, like when I look at the videos, I'm just like, wow, what a place. But it was very difficult. Oh, also, and because we were on state land, I have this curse. The survivor gods cursed me. They were like, Kirk, you can win survivor a few times, but when you host events, we're gonna get your ass in trouble. So like I can't tell you how many times the feds have interrupted my event. Like 3 times. I can tell you. I'm 3 times the feds have interrupted my events.
Like, what is this? What's going on? We've heard noise complaints. Who are you?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So we used to use the term, instead of being voted out or whatever. I I don't know why we said you were being sacrificed. Like
Ah,
we
I'm sure
said,
they love that.
yes, they said, oh, they said, what is up with you sacrificing people? They thought we were a cult, is what they
How
told
did they
me.
know you were doing sacrifice? Would they come and listen and hear you say it? Like,
So no, we had a website. So early, and I
oh,
was kind of telling you about this. I searched for my older Kokopelli stuff, and thanks to the Wayback Machine, I could
mhm.
find the original website that had a place for players to like create like almost like characters, like just a little avatar of yourself, and you could like message other people that had played different games. It was like a webs, like Weebly webs type site, and we were just playing with it to try
Mhm.
to help promotion, because remember in those 2000s everybody was anybody as long as they had a website. So we were just like trying to get that word out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what? So if you could go back in time and like give yourself any advice going that season, what would you have told yourself?
Oh God, if I could give myself advice, don't sweat the small stuff, Kirk. But I could tell myself that every time I host. Like you could, just 2 years ago, ask any of the production crew. One night I freaked out, had to walk off. Thank God it's not on camera. If you were a castaway on the real show, they would have loved it, but not. You don't want to see that from a host. You know, I would tell myself, to trust your instincts. But honestly, I wouldn't. This is going to sound a little egotistical.
Hmm.
I I'm very proud of what we did back then. I wouldn't change much.
Hmm.
I probably would tell myself, you need some volunteers.
Yeah.
You need Oh, this is how we did food. So the first few years of Kokopelli was not a starvation survivor. You were isolated. You were in the deep, deep woods. You didn't have shit, but it was done as like a food co-op. So you still starved. Basically, people would sign up to prepare like one meal over the course of the weekend.
Hmm.
And hopefully you got to eat because people prepared food. That was not always the case. And I'll tell you, every year I was host, I never ate. So I was hungrier than all of the players. And I think that just set me up to be a really good survivor player later on.
So, because Kokopelli has this thing initially of the winner will run the game, you kind of luck out with Susie winning season 2. So Susie runs season 3. Season 3 is won by Johnny, but Johnny is unable to run season 4. And so does it then just how does season 4 then happen? Does it fall back to you?
I kind of took it over. I kind of just said, well, I really wanted it to happen again. And there was also talk, do we do it at the same location? Do we not do it at the same location? There was lots of this talk. Susie in I forget which month it was. I think it was late winter. She got pregnant and
Mm.
she knew this on a trip when she was in Alaska. So she was like, I'm out for good for this season. And Trevor was too. And Johnny was at one point, I remember he left me a text message that said something like, I don't think I can commit totally to it. Do you want to help out with this? And that's when I just kind of took it over. I grabbed a group of friends of mine and I really settled into like what you see to this day is where what would be, I called it my board, but
Mhm.
you'd really look at it as like the modern like production team for
Mhm.
most LRGs to these days. So I had like a group of people. One person was really focused on challenges, one person was focused on recruiting, one person was focused on food and entertainment like after the fact. So it really turned into what you would see as like tribe handlers and like showrunners. But we didn't have those names. We just knew how companies were run. So we kind of modeled it after just a board of directors. And another thing, Kenneth Johnson, he also played our series 4 times. He is now the mayor of Muskegon, Michigan. And he was on our initial board of directors. And I think it's the first board he ever was a part of. So I could say, oh, he got his start before he was a politician at Adventure Kokopelli.
And so it sounds like one of the biggest learning things was like that second season, like getting more help, getting more people
Yes.
involved, not shouldering it all on yourself. Um,
And I could say the same thing for Susie in
Mhm.
season 3. She felt similar, Stephen. And at the end of it all, it was just like it was very exhausting for her.
Mhm. I mean, I feel like generally hosts are as exhausted, if not more, than the players from lack of sleep, running around, they're not eating. I think the best games, I think that you have a very strong number 2 who will take work away from the host. They know, like, let me do this for you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Um, Now I know where Kokopelli is now. You mentioned before how season 2 is in a beautiful yet remote area. Your location season 2, you are basically on right by cabins, right? And so you have easy access to the cabins, a lot of wilderness to put the players, but you have easy access to road, cabins, etc. Right? I feel like that's like a big level up in the game, at least making production's life easier.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, that's part of the beauty, but we actually, Stephen, only had cabins the first season. We didn't have any cabins
Hmm.
until like, well, I think the last 2, I think if that's what you said, the last 2
Hmm.
seasons that we've done, yes.
Yep.
And while the thing about it is it's a gorgeous location. We had so much fun there. It's nice to be able to, as production, as an old dude, I like being able to lay in a bed if I'm the host. Like you're
Mhm.
just exhausted, and like, I mean, I'm a player too. Like I sleep on the ground just like anybody else, except they let me bring a hammock to Canada. So, anyways, I didn't sleep on the ground last season, but I've been there, and it's very nice to be able to get a good night's sleep, so that because the day starts so early.
Yep.
When you do production, if the people who don't do production don't realize in Survivor games, the players wake up with the sun. Production does not. So you have to get them to bed. Like it's pretty critical to have a, I mean, it's like people like to party at these things, but to run a really good event, you have to kind of live like a nun.
Talk to me about the challenge with the production. So production, oftentimes, these are friends or past players, and people are coming out because they like the game, nostalgic, etc. But they also want to have fun, right? And so it's challenge like like you, the host, like I need to run a game, but also production wants to have fun, and there's likely a balance you have to strike with that.
Yeah, I don't know how to find that balance.
Okay.
I think I think for me the event is always fun. And so it's just like me as a teacher in the classroom. I can't force you to have fun with something that's fun for me. I can just be passionate about it. And if somebody's super passionate about it, you might be a slightly more interested. So the best thing I can do as a host and as a player, I can I could bring this up. This is about Kokopelli, but I can't tell you how many times players can make or break the game,
Hmm.
especially the opening of games. And it's like how you react to it. It's like the energy you give to what was built before you get there. And so there's, with production, we learned that you need to have a lot of people. And I would say in all of the years of Kokopelli, we've done some of the most minimal, smallest production teams you could
Hmm.
possibly have. And I still think we pull it off with we have a good mission. And I know, regardless of if we're doing it as a charity or not, our mission is that whoever is participating, that they walk away and they had a fun experience.
Hmm.
And that means even the person that was voted out first. And
Hmm.
that is a huge part of every event and every game I've ever planned.
I definitely think that having production ready to help players, process what they went through, being voted out, still feeling included and part of it, that's important. And I think sometimes, like again, it's very easy to get caught in the game and who's still there and what's ongoing, and sometimes you can feel as even a pre-jury member like, ooh, I'm kind of an afterthought.
So in Kokopelli, the the first season to have pre-jury was our last season that had about 20 people. Every other season, everybody was a juror.
Hmm.
And you knew that at the start because our casts were small. I think one season we had like 14 or 15 people. We might have had a couple seasons of that size. So we just wanted to make everybody a part of the end game. Also, early on in Survivor, the whole like make the merge,
During the
make the
merge.
jury. Yeah, that was not a thing. Like players did not. It wasn't until org players really came into the event that was a mentality. Like I gotta make the jury.
Hmm.
So like with our game, we were able to kind of remove that construct. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing in a game that's not worth $1 million, personally. So no, Snyder, I'm not referring to earn the merge. I was referring to just like the concept of players just like I gotta get to the merge, right? Like it's like a checkpoint in your
It's a
head.
badge of honor, and also just kind of
Yes.
a way of measuring your worth as a player. As a player, if I can't make the merge, why am I even good at this? Why even bother? Right? There's kind of that mentality. And certainly there is a survivor checklist of all things you want to do, but I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of times when I view games, it's like, did I make the merge? Did I not make the merge? Like, did I make it past the halfway point? Am I better than half the people there?
It's true, but it's like I play the mole, and like that's not even a concept in the game of the mole. So I feel like sometimes in Survivor, it's just kind of a. I'll tell you this: every game I've won and every game I've lost in Survivor, I've never once given a fuck. about gotta get the merge. No, it's always like gotta win the game, right? Like,
Yeah. And I think that's important for players to realize, like, what are you playing for? And, that's
yeah,
playing to reach, maybe playing with not just the winning in the end sight may limit how you play.
very true. And I think some of those constructs kind of changed how our game evolved over time because everybody voted. One of the things we had was a boot list. So like people would leave early, just like at any LRG. And so we were like, oh, you're leaving. How are you going to vote? How are you going to vote for the winner? And so we would have, and this happened like 2 or 3 times where a player left in order the list of who they wanted to win, and that was their vote, essentially was a boot list.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it ever changed any of our winners, but again, this was early LRGs. We just made it work. We didn't have technology to communicate at rapid pace, so it was tough.
So over the years, because you have seasons from 07 to 2012, you bounce between player and production. Who's on production when you're a player, or do you do a lot of the setup and ahead of time, even when you're a player?
Oh no, never. I
Yeah.
stayed completely out of it every time. I know people are probably like, no, you know the people. Not at all. Even when I lived in Ann Arbor with Susie, I never saw a challenge. If I was at her house and she was doing something in the basement, she'd freak out, even if I was remotely close to seeing the color of a bandana for the tribes. Like, no, I was constantly surprised. In the last season that I played, season 5, with Dustin. That was Dustin's first season playing, and that was the season that almost broke us up as a partner.
Well, because you all go against each other.
Yeah, he went against me, and then I went against him because he went against me. So, anyways, that season was my sister, Kenneth Johnson, who is now the mayor of Muskegon, and Rebecca Chatfield, and Sarah Hiddema, and a few other people. But that was like the core group that orchestrated that event. And ever since that season, I've always been on production for Kokopelli.
Yeah. So you have the 2012 season, but there would end up not being a 2013 season. What's happened between 2012 and 2013 that left, 2013 just not a season? Because, there's information, their teachers like, we want to make it happen. So what went wrong or what fell through?
So we had a lot of people apply. We had a teaser video out. This is starting to get to the time where everybody's online, everybody's on Facebook. And Amos from Reelfoot, he applied to be on that season. Travis applied again. Jake applied again to be on that season. And I say applied, we were just casting people. Like if you know anything about Kokopelli, our application process is mostly like, did you first in, first out? Like you got it in, you're in. So there was quite a few people, but Amos was interesting. There was a few other people too that are well known today in the LRG community that applied in that last season of Kokopelli that didn't happen. And Dustin and I were in a situation where we were kind of moving careers, and I was getting my full-time job teaching at Muskegon Public. He was kind of, if I remember correctly, he was switching into banking. And we also knew that Amos was putting on Reelfoot that year.
Yep.
And we had ties to John Batea. And there was the inklings of Survival Challenge, like the Durham that was starting up. So we were like, you know what? Let's sit back for a summer. Let's see what happens. And Dustin and I were able to like really just, for the first time, really just focus on us and our relationship, and we observed these games. We were super intrigued. We messaged everybody about them. Reelfoot, we knew many of the players, so I was messaging everybody what happened.
You have Travis Rindler and Rebecca Chatfield are both on that cast. Amos is the host of it. And there's other people as well.
Jalen is Final 3. Evan Kirksey is Final 4. Those are 2 people that ended up helping to create this name, Live Reality Games, to play Pirate Booty Camp. So yes, it's very early on. We see this cycle of players that are very much turning this into a hobby. and starting to play different seasons.
Uh,
Oh, insurance. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
talking about insurance, because there's a lot of explicit costs people think about running these games, like you have to rent the campsite, you have to buy the supplies, ensure there's food for production and players. But insurance is always one of the things that I don't think people like realize, like, oh yeah, we have to make sure like we can't get sued, maybe.
Well, not all games do it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm not throwing out, well, m- I- most games don't do it. Let's put it that way. And you don't have to. However, if you're going to rent out public sites, you need to have liability insurance. And so, one of our last years, when the feds came in, the Rangers were like, "Oh, this event is fine." They kind of likened our Survivor to a group of people playing poker at a campsite. They said it's very difficult to distinguish the two things. And when you think about it, Stephen, it kind of is. It's just a game where you're betting on if you'll win,
Yeah, sure.
with a whole lot of, it's just a lot long.
Sweat tears, etc.
And idols and that. So yeah, so the Rangers came in. They gave me a ticket. They fined me for not having insurance. They let the event go on. They allowed the event to go on, and they forced me to walk through every single physical challenge and to talk them through it. And this is when they were like, "Where's the barbed wire?" And I'm like, "Barbed wire? What?" And they're like, "Yeah, isn't there barbed wire? Where are the human sacrifices?" And I'm like, and so when the Rangers came in too, they came in full stop. Trucks on the 2-track trail. They brought in trucks with boats on the other side of the lake. They had Rangers walking in the trails around the side of the peninsula. Like, they were literally coming in on all sides to stop a Survivor game. And they let us do it anyways. It's so bizarre. It's like, I was scared shitless in the moment, but a $50 ticket later, it really wasn't that bad.
So that's 2013, right? This is around the Genesis Survival Challenge starts 2012 is when the first season Survival Challenge is. Real Fit, I don't remember the exact date, but around 2012, 2014, that's when the first season of Real Fit hits. You pass up 2013, and then 2014 rolls around. You're just like, is it like the community has other games, they don't need us, or like life is just busy, it's all in me and Dustin, and we just don't have time for this? What's the thought process?
So 2014, that is the year that Dustin and I proposed to Dustin, and we've been perpetually engaged ever since. So really, that was the forefront. It was us. It was Those 2 years were all us. And then after those 2 years, every Memorial weekend would come around, and we would go like, "Oh, remember those times with our college friends?" And it was like 2 years. Remember those times? And it was 3 years, right? It's 2015. "Oh, remember those times with the college friends?" And Rebecca Chatfield, who, remember, was a part of Kokopelli. She played one of the seasons. She helped. She goes, "Oh, I need you to play Pirate Booty Camp season 1." Well, we didn't know it would be more than one season. And we're like, "This sounds interesting. Tell us more." And that kind of reinvigorated us. It's like in the theater, they say you do a show and you get bit by the bug and you need to do more shows. It was kind of like that. Hosting takes a toll on you, but when you play a game, you kind of get bit by the bug and you're like, "Ooh, that was fun. I want to try that again."
So, talking about burnout a bit, what should be a good solution? Because we have games that have been going on for a while now. Survival Challenge is surpassing a decade. Real Foot has just had its 11th season, which is an all-star season. There are Survivor BC's had a ton of seasons, and then they've struggled with some Jira passing the torch to future productions. So, like, what do you think games should do to help with burnout? Is the answer is be willing to say, "Hey, no, we will take a summer off or so, and like we don't need to be an annual event," or is the answer like, we need to find new people to say, "Hey, if the main host doesn't want to do it, we have backup people who are excited to do it"? Like, what do you think?
So my answer is to take breaks.
Okay.
And I've personally, for myself, and I can't prescribe this for anybody else, but for me, I'm gonna take a break and I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm 45 years old. I might just fucking retire. I might just kick my legs up for 40 years and never do it again. And then when I'm 85, go, I'm going to play Survivor now. Like, I think it's important to take care of yourself and take care of your soul. And when people plan these events, the amazing creators that you are, and you all are, it consumes many of you. It consumes me, and it consumes you for like many days and hours and months. And I think that's the part that you need to balance. And I had a long talk with a friend of mine about this, about, is your pride of putting on an event every year worth more than just your mental health? And I think that's the balance every host should ask themselves. But also, I think it's on the contrary. What you said is also true. You might just be somebody like Amos, that this season I'm going to completely step back and let other people plan all of it. And I'll come in as needed, or I won't come in. And I think that's also a choice too. But I do think, I mean, even John with Survival Challenge, he doesn't watch Survivor anymore, like the show. But he puts on Survivor every summer. There is a level of burnout that can occur in this community. And so I just think people should take care of themselves and remember that this amazing hobby that you do, that you also have other amazing hobbies and other things that everybody does, right? And it's just like, don't it's temper yourself. Like, spend your time doing a little of all of it.
So if you had a person, let's say, who is a player or a projection member come to you and say, like, I know you're not running Kokopelli this year. I want Kokopelli. I want to run Kokopelli if you don't want to. What would you say? Hey, like, let's start your own series, and I'm happy to volunteer to help out. Or would you be like, yeah, no, like, let's make it happen, and I can just show up and help out, but it's not on me. The onus isn't on me. Like, what would you think?
If it was Johnny and Emily, I would say, hell yeah. Yeah, I'll just put that out there. I don't know if they'll ever watch this. No, if Johnny and Emily said that to me, I'd be like, hell yeah. I've been really impressed with their networking, but also like they are able to put on so many events and show run all of these different events. I've been super impressed. So Snyder asked the question, did Paddock and Johnny start dating after season 8? Yes. I thought they were dating during the event, but didn't say anything. But yeah, if like Johnny was like, hey, can I host a season of Kokopelli? I would fucking step down in a heartbeat and let that dude. He has got the loudest voice in the world.
Is this Johnny Sabota or a different Johnny?
No, Emily's boyfriend.
Okay. Johnny, I don't know. Excellent.
Oh, you totally know him.
There's a lot of people.
There's a lot. Johnny Stockton. I had to look for his last name for a second. Yeah.
Okay. So between 2013 and 2017, you have a chance to play in Pirate Booty Camp. In 2017, you essentially kind of run Pirate Survival Expedition. What was it like, running a game that wasn't your game, but still was your game, right? Because you're helping Rebecca with that.
So it was hard at first. It's hard trying to achieve anybody's vision. And we also wanted to twist it up and do something a little bit different for season 3. We had some ideas for twists. So it really was, it was all a collaboration with Dustin, Ian, and Jordan Chechowicz, who are now the landowners for Survival Challenge, and that's their home as well. And the four of us worked together, and we did pretty much everything together from the challenge. Ian did a lot of the challenge construction, but so did Dustin and I. And then casting, that was a lot of Dustin and Jordan. And we actually did a pretty thorough casting process for that season compared to any other season I've ever done. We had a lot of people apply, so it was a tough season to cast.
I'm
And
out of
that
curiosity.
and then
How many people applied?
oh, I'd have to pull up the notes. We had to say no to quite a few people.
Okay.
So it was legit. I personally don't like to do that because my goal, again, my mission is always to make dreams come true for people to have fun. So if you want to go, I want to provide you with that opportunity. Like if you can figure out how to get to the Manistee National Forest for 5 days of your life, I want to make sure they're some of the most fun days you ever experience. And that was the same thing for your event, Stephen. It was quite a few. And so we were really looking, again, Blood versus Water, I've cast like 2 or 3 times now. I love it so much. And your season was the same thing. It was finding relationships. So we had the added challenge of having people who already knew each other. So hello, if you cast LRGs, that's the nature of the beast. Somebody knows somebody. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's definitely hindsight looking back and seeing like, oh, there's maybe more real foot connections than I had realized at the time. But
we knew.
I mean, production knew. I've only
Oh.
seen season 1, season 2, didn't know. I was like, oh my gosh, Jalen, Stacy, the celebrities are around me.
Yeah, right. Stacy's just in the creek, just like splashing around. Don't mind her.
So, what reinvigorated you then to relaunch Kokopelli in 2018?
Oh, it was all of it. It was seeing Survival Challenge. It was seeing a Pirate Booty Camp, and it was putting on Pirate Booty Camp. I think that's really what it was. And after we did it, I think Dustin and I, you get through the problems. There were moments where a challenge fell apart. And I remember it was me and Michael Breidenhagen. We're like, what do we do? Jordan's freaking out. Like, this is every host. This is every production team at every game. What do we do now? And somebody comes up with the perfect solution right when you need it. And I think going through that event, it was a huge cast. There were a lot of relationships, a lot of friendships developed from season 3 of Pirate Booty Camp. And I think it was like, wow, I want to do this in Michigan again. Like, it's been long enough. Let's see if we can do it. And we kind of capitalized on the relationships we had built at Survival Challenge.
Yeah.
And primarily in order to get enough players.
So you run the 2018 season, because you've been reinvigorated. Talk to me about the decision to wait till 2020. Was it more like, hey, well, like COVID 2020 just ruined everything, or just like, we learned that we can take our time and come back to it, and there'll still be demand for it?
Yeah. So during COVID, I was like, let's not even try. What's the point of putting this on? And I wasn't sure if there would be demand. It actually came down to the season changed themes many times. And Dustin and I had been podcasting on this channel for quite a while at this point. So we knew a lot of games, we knew a lot of players. And we when Dustin and I are having Sunday breakfast, a lot of the players we've watched, like we've talked about you guys. Like, we frequently talk about the LRG players. Like he'll be like, oh, Taylor's still in the game. And I'll be like, Taylor who? Like, which one? Because at this point, they're literally first name basis to us. Like, they feel like friends and some family to us. So anyways, we were talking about some of our favorite players, and I remember it was kind of in the ether for a while. People were like, let's do a series that's the challenge but gets people from all the different LRGs. And that had been put out there, and it hadn't been done. So we were like, well, let's do our own Legend season. Let's pick who we think are some of the best players online or in real life. And let's do Blood versus Water. Let's make it super hard for them so they have a family member or somebody they care about, so it totally messes with their head while they're playing Survivor. They can't just be an individual. And let's just see what happens with these really good players. in a blood versus water scenario. So we really wanted to do blood versus water again. We really wanted to see some of these great players play again, or at least great from where we stand. They've done something unique or in an interesting way, whether it was online or in real life. And some of the relationships they brought were just really exciting too. Some of them were like intense competitors that had voted each other out. Some were like family members, roommates. And so we were just really excited to create to us kind of like a little all-stars of LRG players.
Do you feel like even though you aren't running seasons consecutive over time, like you've built up enough network or relationships with people that it's not difficult to find people to help out with production? Or do you feel like that's a continual challenge season by season to get people to be there to help?
Yes and no. There's always like the people that you expect, and at a certain point, everybody's life changes trajectories, and it's like, oh, camp mom won't be there. She's been there every year, so that stuff can be tough. But I know for this year, I have a pretty strong crew. We have a messenger chat, and everybody already knows what they're doing. So in regards to like production crews, we're way ahead of the game than normal.
The key to good production is a lot of organization and maybe an Excel sheet or two.
Yes. Oh yeah, Excel sheet with many tabs. If you're Dustin, it's like.
Now, Cider's a question. I think you know the answer. The largest cast that you've had has been 24 players.
That I was on, or that
let's do both. The largest cast you've hosted has been 24, right?
24. That was you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then the largest LRG cast I've been on, it might be Survivor Durant.
Okay.
I think that had a full 18. Yeah, Snyder, if you know me, I will gladly play a game with 12 people before I'll play a game with 20 people. This is why John's always like, Kirk, you want to play Survival Challenge? I'm like, hell no. He's like, why? I said, you're going to give me a 1 out of 24 freaking shot to win this game, dude. I already come in with a target. Are you going to give me a free immunity idol at least while you're at it?
You've been downplaying your profile, right? You haven't been the person running the live streams these past couple of years. Like the new people are gonna forget who you are a bit. It's all tactics, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was kind of like Canada's tactic. It was like get out of the feed. By the way, it worked.
So you've hosted a lot of games. What do you feel like you've really ironed out and figured out? And what do you think has been the secret to the success in that measure?
Well, I know for us, we've ironed out how to have players have fun. Again, having fun is our chief goal. And we know that everybody's going to get voted out. So we already know you're not going to have fun at some point. So like we're already like, when we start planning a game, we're planning for that. So like in season 2, the voted out players did participate in some challenges. Like at one challenge, all they had were squirt guns, and they were allowed to squirt gun the players that were in the game. But like, how fun when you're out of the game and you get to do something that's just like a little pranky. You get some revenge, right? In a good-hearted, good-natured way. So I've also learned how to plan a day's worth of events. And if you come to play a tag event, and this is no shade on all of your lovely events that I go to, but you're going to get not 4 challenges in one day. You're going to get 8 to 12 for sure. Like you're going to not get eliminated on day 1, and probably not day 2 at all, like nobody. And I know that changes some things for the game. Like it makes the voting out part go faster. You have to arm yourself up earlier in the game. It is a different beast. But part of what we've always done, Steven, is we've always incorporated twists that weren't on the show, or at least weren't on the show at the time we created the twists. It was another reason why we called it Kokopelli. We didn't want people just to play Survivor when they came here. We wanted to make our own mark on this game. So like tokens, we did that in 2007. Like tokens, you could buy idle clues with tokens, and yeah, you could get them, find them, earn them. This next season has such a cool twist that I can guarantee you no survivor has ever done. Yes, it is twisty. So yes, you purists will fucking hate it, and I don't care, because the people who play the game are going to love it. And I'm going to make sure people who want to apply or who have messaged, they know, and they know what they're getting into. Another interesting thing, Stephen, is Kokopelli has always been a one world season in some way. So we've had one worlds where everybody lived together, and then in the last 2 seasons, the tribes lived next to each other. One of those seasons, the tribes overlapped a little bit. So we are definitely we have a lot of very unique ideas for next season. We are not going to do everything the same. It will be one world with a twist. Let's just put it that way.
So I want to ask about, we mentioned earlier, it's like, things will go wrong. Things will go wrong. You have to scramble. You talk about, like in Pirate Survival Expedition 2017, Jordan's like, this won't work. What are we going to do? And, people figure things out. You come up with solutions, What has been your best approach to these moments of like, we had a plan, we maybe even had a backup plan, and now we need to figure out what plan C is?
So that's having the right, for me, it's having the right people on your team, because I can't see that in the moment. So if I'm hosting, I'm the one that needs the rules to, like, I need to be able to make calls. And when something goes wrong, I look to my team. And that's been Michael Breidenhagen, that's been Dustin Napper, that's been Missy Bird, that's been Josh Blaker. I'm missing so many people, Ian Chechowicz, Jordan Chech, that have been there. Like there was a challenge where we were doing a water moving challenge with pipes, and the pipes broke. Like they just cracked, and I was like, and we're on live stream. And this is one of the earliest live streams. Like we kind of pioneered this, and we're like, what do we do? I said, folks, we'll be right back. And so we just turned off the stream. We told the teams, we're not going to do this challenge. It's no longer fair. Just we sequestered the teams, and my team, I went off and walked, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And they just got together. And it was Stacy as well. Stacy Brooke was also helping. And they just came up with a perfect challenge that had a little bit of water moving in it. So they kept a little bit of the purity of what we wanted in the moment. And so part of it is also having challenges ready to go, like standbys. And I think that's a really important aspect of your planning. It can be as simple as you have your alphabet blocks and you're going to do your word challenge, or you're going to you have a set of bocce balls because you can use those, but you should definitely have 2 to 3 go to, just, you can change it up in a heartbeat, because something will go wrong for sure.
Now, do you feel like there's like, for you, what is always the hardest part about running a game? What is like something that continues to be a challenge year over year?
The players won't. It's money. Yeah, for every host that's putting in a great game. So your survival challenges, they're donating. I know I pay the fee too, and I know it's high, but insurance, location, supplies, food for 5+ days, it's very expensive. And I know from talking to numerous hosts, that's the part that eats at them, is how much money they usually put into the event. So I would just always say, like, tips are appreciated. Nobody does it, but like, your host put in a lot, so at least give them the love. Like I think it's absolutely disrespectful to go to a game that, even if you're not having a great time because you're probably losing, it's like you still owe it to them to be kind.
Do you mind if we talk a little bit more details about finances?
That's fine.
So if you can just pick one of the games you've run in the past, before player fees, what was the cost?
Okay. So, all right.
Like,
So
I'm just curious, how much does it cost to run a survival game? Your games are tended what, 5, 7 days? I know Pirate Survival
yeah.
Expedition was 7 days long, and
Okay.
that game you're on Jordanian's property, so you're not paying the rental lodging fees. You're just the players who are out or in the
It's
woods,
true.
players who are in the game are camping right by it. So you're low on the location costs, but there's still all these other costs to think of.
Yeah, so it's almost like Steven, it depends on the production team, but it's like every production team I've met spends more money than they bring in.
Yeah, that's fair.
Unless or they haven't told me otherwise.
Hmm.
So yeah, so when it came to survival pirate expedition,
Hmm.
that one probably was the closest to making money simply because of location. So
Hmm.
yeah, that is very much helpful when it's on somebody's private property that they give you for free.
Hmm.
But we did put in a lot of extra money into insurance
Hmm.
because if you remember correctly, the weather was deadly during your season, and multiple people were one person was medevaced, one person was almost pulled out. It
That
was
was so yeah. So day 4 of the game was when we had extremely high heat. This is the day before the storm, and so I remember, for instance, so you remember production pulled us inside to be in the air conditioner for a bit. I know Joel was kind of facing heat
yes,
exhaustion in that moment. I don't know what was going on in the other tribe, but definitely the heat was a challenge, and that was a theme that reoccurred several years later for survival challenge in that
yep.
same place where a player was essentially medevaced after being voted out
Oh,
due to
that's
heat exhaustion.
right. Yeah, that was bad. So, anyways, both occasions turned the event. The numbers doubled in regards to insurance cost
Hmm.
for both of those events because of just to be proactive.
Hmm.
And then Dustin posted for Pirates. We also did that as a fundraiser for Project Hope.
Yep.
And I forgot about that. But yeah, that's true. So that also, I mean, it kind of eats away at your money
Yeah.
in a way. You're not using those resources in the same way. Food is very expensive. When we did our event for Kokopelli, where it currently is, we get a discount because it's a charity on our daily cost, but our cost is, I still want to say, about $150 per day.
Hmm.
And then you have to imagine you're feeding everybody, which the survivor players, day 1 and 2, they're not eating.
Hmm.
So it's easy. It's not like Big Brother where you have to feed those bitches. Like Survivor, at least it's like okay, go make rice. Go.
Food costs are initially low.
Yes, and then it gets hella expensive because then they get voted out.
Hmm.
And then if you've been at any LRG and you've seen a Survivor player get voted out, what's the first thing they want?
Food.
Food.
Yeah.
That's the first way to make them happy. Food.
Yeah. Because
It's
I
like,
know
yeah.
for games generally, pre-merge players, like it's easy, like just get in your car, go find food, you deal with it yourself. But your jury is sequestered, and so now
Uh-huh.
it's really on you to kind of figure out, all right, how are we making food? And even then, like I think I've seen in games like it's trouble sometimes just getting food for production on top of that as well. So
It is, and at Survivor British Columbia last season, the crows were just coming into the campsite and taking production's food. We'd be at the challenge. The crows were eating better than production, and they at one point they just gave up. Like you could see like the defeat on the cameraman's face as their like breakfast sandwich goes off into the air, and you were like, oh, it's been a long night for them.
so should hosts be expected to just pay for it out of pocket, like or like
No, my quick answer is no.
yeah,
The long answer is they will do it because they love it
yeah.
and it's their passion project, and they should do it. Then they should invest money into it because there is a takeaway, right?
Hmm.
Like the things we've done for our charities have been really special for us, and the friendships and and the time you get to
Hmm.
spend with people, dear God, that's that's priceless.
Mhm.
Like you just can't. Yeah. So yeah, there's many hosts that will say, "Oh, this credit card bill isn't paid off from last year's event." You'll hear that, but they do this for a
Mhm.
variety of different reasons, and I do think it's important that every production team knows what their mission is, and that was another reason why we stopped, right? Like we didn't have the same goals that we did. Like the first 3 years, it was like, oh, let's hang out with our
Mhm.
friends. The next 3 years, it was like, okay, let's recruit new people, and then it was like, well, these events are going on, so what else do we do with this? And then when
Mhm.
we saw Charitable Survivor, we thought, okay, that's us. That's what we can do with this too. So as much as we've created stuff, we've also learned and replicated from other LRGs along the way.
I was in a chat with players from a different game, and there's like, hey, there's this game, it's recruiting, and it costs $500 to play. And some people are like, oh, that's a hefty chunk of change. And for me, I'm just like, man, I think every game I played, I've easily earned $1,000 because like nothing's in Texas. Well, I found a game, but generally nothing's in Texas, nothing's driving. So I am flying, then renting a car or transportation. Most likely there's a hotel on top of that, on top of the game fee. It's like, man, I know when I play these, like I'm fine paying the money just because like this is my vacation. I starve for fun.
I starve for fun. I starve for my health in the summer. Like,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah, this is how I lose weight.
I I,
Um,
I enjoy being drenched in the torrential rain in Illinois with nothing to look forward to. It's
and
great.
I paid for it, right? Like this is
I did it to myself.
this was a grant, but yeah, I could attest to that. Like about $1,000, you hear that a lot from players, like somewhere between 500 to 1,000, depending on where they live and where the event is, and if they're able to travel with other people. So we've been fortunate that Dustin does a lot of, and he's speaking of it right here. He does a lot of the charity work, and he finds sponsorships for our event. So we were donated for our event. Um, our water bottles came from this company, Super Sparrow. All the players got one, and I think they were like $30 or $40 each. Our most of our food cost was donated as well in regards to like player food. So some of it was really weird, but we took it. We took any donation, and then we
What's the
just don't.
weirdest food you've had donated to you?
It was like stuff that you would. What is like the parts of the pig you don't eat, like you do eat it, but you cook with it. So we're like, what are they? But they were like, oh, it's Survivor, right? You'll want ham hocks. That's it. Like, and we're like,
Yeah, players will eat anything. Let's
maybe, maybe, yeah, it's true. And we've put some weird stuff into our food eating challenges. So I don't know if those made it, but sometimes our food donation, something from our food donation did get in last year, but I don't remember what it was, or 2 years ago. I mean.
there's two final points I kind of want to touch on here regarding, Kokopelli and the Adventure Game Group and what it's done. Adventure Game Group was one of the pioneers of live streams. I think
Hmm.
I want to say other games really picked it up out of the 2017 Power Survival Expedition
Hmm.
experience. What have you learned, or what advice can you give regarding making a live stream successful in a game?
So, if you're going to do a live stream, make sure you have battery packs ready to go on whoever is streaming. Be prepared with multiple phones, because your phone is going to overheat, and it's going to turn off if you're outside. It will. And I have a personal penchants for certain types of live streams, and I don't watch certain kinds.
Hmm.
So some people, this might be a hot take for people that do that, but um, I want to watch the players. I don't want to watch the commentators. If you're gonna put the camera on yourself, I don't care. I want to hear your. So think about sports, Stephen. When you hear the commentators, most of the time during the broadcast, you're watching the players, but you're listening to a voiceover. And only when the players are literally not doing anything does it sometimes turn to them, and not always, right? Sometimes we'll still watch the players on their downtime, because that's what we're here for. And I would say there are some kind of podcasters out there that focus a little bit too much on themselves, and they forget of all the good, juicy little things that we're missing at home. From it's not even words. Sometimes I'm freaking out with Dustin because I'm like, oh my God, Steven looked at Dustin. Did you see that? And it wasn't anything talked about. It was just a little interaction. So for me, I look for that stuff because when I'm watching the game, I'm also watching the game as a player. Like, what would I be doing if I was there? So I don't want to watch the commentators. I want to see you guys at your after shows. I want to see you guys at the ends of the streams. But throughout the streams, no. Nope. Let me watch the players. So that's kind of a hot take because I think lately it's kind of gone in a different direction, at least from what I've watched.
Mm-hmm. We've mentioned earlier, Kokopelli, I feel like, is always kind of pushed the envelope in terms of what can be in a Survivor game and what twisted advantages we can see. And it's been fun seeing, some of these picked up in other games, even CBS Survivor. What's been one of your favorite ones?
Lose a vote. Like I couldn't believe it. So we did an entire season, the season of Temptations. Every single time you went to the voting booth, and this has been in other LRGs now, every single time it said, if you don't want to vote, you can do this instead. So every round, it would be like a twist, like traditional, like save this vote for later. If you don't vote, you can keep it. Some twists were like, if you don't vote this round, you can have a clue to the idol. If you don't vote this round, you're immune. That was literally a twist. And that one was fucking amazing because the corollary was, if everybody is immune, you draw rocks. It didn't get to rocks, but it was very, very intense decision-making that round. And what was fun is I never considered it losing your vote. I considered it, in game theory, this is called tragedy of the commons.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at as your vote as the common welfare. Like, I was imagining a society where everyone's gifted one vote, and that is your decision-making process. But let's create a scenario where everybody is tempted to not do their due diligence as a citizen in the society and vote. And it happened all the time. I want to say Rebecca got voted out. Rebecca had like 2 extra votes on her and still got voted out of the game. Like, so it was people were taking Temptations when they couldn't. And that was what we wanted to see out of the twist. And we never really went back to that twist itself. But it was fun to see Survivor eventually do some versions of lose a vote, you get this, or don't vote, and this happens.
I guess, what have your thoughts been on the new era of Survivor, post 40 Survivor?
Yeah. I podcasted for a year. I did 41 and 42, and then 43 and 44 came out. I think, oh gosh, I love our brothers and sisters on Fiji, but I think they're getting a little tired. I think they're a little, I know they're excited about things like, 3 tribes and I know there's some things that's kind of like they're trying to make it a staple, but the creativity of a season that had like thematic casting, even if the casting wasn't perfect, to me stands out more than these 5 seasons of the 40s. Like, they're very hard for me to, like, I can tell you the winners. I could be like, okay, yep, Marianne, Gabler, Erica, and wait, somebody else, one person.
Yam Yam.
Yeah. Oh, great winner too. Yam Yam. But that's the problem, I think, is part of it is like, it also gets very murky in my head. I'm like, oh, did Shan play with Yam Yam? No. Yam Yam played with Gabler. No, Gabler played with, to me, it's like,
there's a homogeneity to these seasons that I think is unfortunate. And I'm hopeful that, have you caught the first 2 episodes of season 45?
Yes.
It gives me hope that, I think they'll stretch their wings a bit and kind of break out of that mold. But I agree, much like with what Kokopelli brings, a bit of the creativity and differences in each game is what makes it exciting and stand out.
I think so too. And I think that's necessary in Survivor because these players come in with so many expectations based on what they saw the year before. And you just don't want them to plan it all out and know what's going to happen and start jumping, guessing things before it happens. So I think I am excited because maybe there's some kind of swap component this season. So maybe that would be I don't know, but also like a swap is an old school twist. Like there's nothing super interesting about that except that we just haven't really seen it in the 40s.
I am hopeful that the 90 minutes will let the season breathe more. I think one of the biggest challenges is wanting to do a lot of advantages is fun. It's not a good TV product, and 90 minutes will help with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for 90 minutes, the first episode, I was bored after an hour. And listen, Stephen, every single time I podcasted, I was like, it's got to be 90 minutes. It's got to be 90 minutes. But I also walked away just not liking cast the like what everybody was posting on Twitter, right? Like I was just like, oh my gosh, like who am I rooting for? I don't know who I'm rooting for. And that was my primary problem. It's like, usually that's not an issue. And even if it's a villain like Emily, I don't even know if Emily's a villain or if she's just annoying. But regardless, it wasn't like Russell Hantz when he first appeared. There was something really engaging about him in his dastardliness. It was almost like with Russell, it was like, oh, nobody would do that. Like he's burning socks and emptying out water and getting like what? With Emily, it's just more like, I don't know. It's like she's the one I agree with. Like she's the only one that was like the pyramids aren't what did she say about the pyramids? They weren't created by UFOs or something.
Yeah.
I loved it. She's looking at everybody like you're crazy people, but she's the crazy one. Yeah, so I dig her. I hope there's more to come from Emily, but honestly, so far I'm not rooting for anybody. That's my true take.
Well, Kirk, is there anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't had a chance to get to this conversation?
Well, I would say that regarding Kokopelli, if you wanted to play and you wanted to be stranded in the Manistee National Forest in beautiful summertime in Michigan, we are not going to do formal casting this season. Like there might be a post, you might hear it from somebody. Your best bet is to just message the Adventure Gaming Group, to message me, to message Dustin, or message anybody you know that's on production, and just get your foot in the door that way. We're kind of going old school with this. So we've done a lot of invites. We're not saying it's invite only, but get a hold of us if you're interested.
Well, Kirk, I have some rapid questions for you. As we end here. What's the one piece of advice you have for other game creators out there?
Oh gosh. Just like everything in life, know your purpose, know your mission, and keep that in the center of your thoughts, especially in the moments when you're so frustrated. Or if you get frustrated, just remember your purpose, remember your mission, remember why you're doing it, and you'll be okay.
What's the one thing you wish you knew going into all this as a host or creator?
I wish I could have foresaw this. Like, I wish I could have foresaw that this would be a community, that the little things that I did early on, maybe I would have even put more attention to detail, more attention to trying to record and have more tangible memories of some of the earlier events, just by knowing that this would be such a bigger thing across the world than I ever could have imagined.
What's one of your favorite memories from hosting a game?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I mean, I mean, not favorite, but we talked about it, but Dustin trying to vote me out. I mean, that is just like classic. Like, but that was playing. I mean, when it comes to hosting, I would say the season I hosted, that very first season, the players, when they arrived, had to take that canoe across the water to get to the site. And some players arrived very late. And so we put torches out at the lakeside. And I remember being able to see and hear their comments of like, what the hell are we getting ourselves into? Like, it was already, the adventure started when they got in the canoe and started just to paddle over, and to think of what that wasn't even the game, but that is the game, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
always the getting there, the meeting of the people, the actual start of the game. It's all part of this crazy LRG thing. So I would go back to that very first memory of people going across the water and being like, wow, I'm at Survivor. It's cool.
What would you like to see from the live rallying community or from the live rally games? Or like, is there a trend you like, or would you like to see, or with something you want to see end? Like, no more of this in the community phase.
Yeah, there's definitely trends I would like, and I had to learn this myself. A trend I would like to end is like comparing apples with oranges. We can't. Every game is so different, and I had to learn this myself about College Survivor and other games that are just differently structured.
Mm-hmm.
Is that they're not going to be the same. Every
Mm-hmm.
game in your series is going to be different. So accept that beautiful fact and stop hating on other people's games, on their casts, on their challenges. And like, yes, there's room for critique, but I think there's a line that we don't need to cross. And regarding things that I like to see, there's been talk about bringing back like a kind of like awards. There's some people talking about like amping some games up and highlighting games.
Mm-hmm.
And similar to this podcast, Stephen, where you're going behind the games, I think it's cool. I know Dustin did awards one year, and I think that's awesome. And it's a lot of work. And if the person that wants to do this wants to go through it, there's a ton of people that are going to support you. So I would say just talk to people and make it happen, because the reason why it's not happening is somebody's not doing it.
Because I don't have time to do an
Because
award
Steven
show.
doesn't have time. He's already the legacy historian of LRGs until the end of time. And that's why we're uploading his brain into artificial intelligence someday.
Yes,
So that
it'll
we
be
can
Steven GPT someday.
Yes. Absolutely. So yeah, I think it's just, and it's watching all these awesome memories, because as I get older, I just want to be able to see other games and see what I experienced at 25 with other people at 25 years later.
So you've already teased and talked about this upcoming season of Kokopelli. Is there anything else regarding the Adventure Gaming Group you want to talk about that you're involved in or give a shout out to?
Yeah, so we've been very busy. So if you, one of the reasons we're not doing events yearly is because we also have an escape room. We also do team building events. Tomorrow, Dustin is doing a team building event for a credit union that hired us. We were recently hired to do like outdoor games for a music festival. So we've been getting lots of different gigs for business. So we're just kind of opening our arms up and saying, okay, we'll try this. And escape room has been fun. It's we've had one room open for a year. We're getting ready to open our second room, and that's been a big learning curve. Like watching people get stuck and how to help them, and the clues and how to change the room up to make it better. So we've been very, very busy in regards to the Adventure Gaming Group outside of Survivor events. But one of the nicest things is that we've been able to recruit. So we frequently put up pictures of our past events, and people will go, "What is this? That looks so much fun." And we're like, "Okay, put your name here. We'd love to have you." And there's a ton of games across the country that would love to have you too if you're interested. So we're still recruiting, even if we're not super out there on social media. We're definitely doing our work locally in Muskegon.
Will there be an escape room style challenge in a live Survivor? That has been my dream. I'd love to do a more escape room style challenge. I just don't think you've quite seen. There hasn't been a good port of one in a game, I feel.
I feel like we did do one an earlier season, in season 6, we had a challenge that was multi-stage, that was
Mhm.
kind of like an escape room. But yeah, that would be a really fun challenge, especially in a Big Brother game, or the mole. That would be really good in the mole, because the mole would never let you get out.
So Victory House Mole, we had an escape room S challenge where 3 different rooms, players were trapped in 3 different rooms, and there was a search component, so you had to search and find 4 different clues, and if you could solve the clues, it gave you the 4-digit combo to get out of the room. And you had a walkie-talkie, and the information, and so you had to extract information from other teams, and the mole just talked the entire time. And lied and gave wrong answers to try to prevent anyone else from getting
Yep.
out if the mole themselves were not getting out.
Yep, that sounds about the mole. That
Yeah.
sounds right.
So
Yep.
it was a step there, but like in terms of like more puzzles, it was very light on it.
So yeah, so we're busy all the time with our escape room that's open every weekend. The summers we extended our hours, but we found out that people would prefer to play escape rooms not in the summer, so that was our slowest season. So we'll probably actually have less hours and do more of our charity work for our next season of Survivor. I think I can tease something. I'm not even getting permission, so I'm just going to say this and get yelled at later.
I mean, for the players who are going to be playing, if you got through an hour and a half, you deserve this.
Yeah, you deserve it. Yeah, if you actually got through this. So we're really excited to make a twist. And I've been thinking about this for a while. And all of the production team has helped out with this, but we want to encourage players to try to make it onto other tribes somehow, in a way.
Uh,
And we want to also encourage you, when you can't find an idol or you can't find an advantage, just create it. And not like you're thinking in like a fake, like, we want you to use the tools in the game, the things in the game, to, like an alchemist, just create out of nowhere what you need. And so kind of like your season, Stephen, where you could save yourself at every tribal council if you needed to. It would be hard to, but essentially you could do something similar this season in a very different way.
You heard it here first, folks. Transmute basic rocks into hidden muted idols.
Yes.
What could possibly go wrong? Someday I hope to come back to play a Kirk special game. I will. Kokopelli is a game I still want to come and play. I just timing is hard, and there will be a season, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Well, Kirk, I'm just so grateful for you to take your time this past hour and a half to talk with me and just kind of share more about the history of the game. For those who are curious, there is a wiki page for Adventure Kokopelli that does actually a really good job giving a longer history of the game by season. And someday we should talk to kind of get it updated a little bit for 2022 and beyond, Kirk. But
oh, absolutely. Yeah. Stephen, this was a blast. I love talking with you. It's been too long. So thanks for having me on. And also thanks for your flexibility.
Yeah. No, I want to make this happen. I'm glad we were able to find a time to make it happen. And thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. There will be more episodes. Next up, I'll be talking to Casey, the host and showrunner of Surviving Bloomington, to talk through the history of Surviving Bloomington and kind of taking your game from one that's from a local game to having an expanded audience and what that is like. So again,
can't wait to watch it.
Thank you, Kirk. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, guys. Bye.